fam, what is up? Welcome back to Stitches and Starlight. My name is Tashiana, but you can call me Tashi because that's what all my friends do, and we are friends now. Welcome to my corner of the internet where we talk about what I am spinning and what I am knitting. It is fiber joy and wool chaos all the time. Thank you so much for being here. If this is your first time, thank you so much for clicking on this thumbnail. There are a million voices clamoring for your attention on the internet, and you saw whatever miscellaneous rectangle I came up with this time and decided to click on this video, and that makes you a rad human. If you're a returning viewer, you already know what time it is. Thanks so much for coming back to the channel. We are going to skip the full-on introduction because today's not an official podcast. I have been thinking about doing this for some time. We're finally doing it. My friend Kristen at Stitch Vintage, which if you are a spinner and you're not following Kristen, go ahead and do that soon. Do it soon. Maybe not now. Maybe finish the video. Don't leave me yet. Like, do not click off this screen and go follow Kristen. But when you're done, go follow Kristen. I will link her in the description box. But in Kristen's first video, she did a tour of her handspun stash, and I was like, hey, that's a really cool idea. So I went and I wrangled my handspun stash the way it stands right now. Obviously, this is not everything that I've made over the last 2.5 years because I have knit a fair amount of my handspun, and also this might be sacrilege, I just give it away. I give a lot of yarn away. I have a lot of friends that are knitters and spinners and all sorts of things, and so I'm constantly giving yarn away. So this is not everything I've ever made because some of it's in projects, some of it's in other people's homes. Some of it is only the universe knows. Maybe the cat overlords have hidden it from me. I don't know. But this is what I could wrangle for my handspun stash. So I'll show you bin 1 so you know what you're getting yourself into. Here's like bin 1 of the handspun stash. There's 2 of these. I'm going to do my best to not talk a ton. So this doesn't take 18 years because I'm looking at it. There's a lot of yarn to get through. So we'll see. Yeah, let's just get to it. So part of the reason why I wanted to show you my handspun stash is 1, I'm very proud of it and I want you to see it because it appeals to my vanity immensely. But 2, the other reason I wanted to show you my handspun stash is we have a lot of new spinners in the community. Welcome to the Spin Fam. And we have a lot of new spinners, and I know a lot of people are getting kind of frustrated because their yarn doesn't look the way they want it to. And I thought it would be helpful for you to see that we all start somewhere. So like my first yarns, I honestly, I don't know how some of them are holding together still. I think they're holding together with like a win and a prayer. Because what is twist? Who knows? But I'll show you my first skein ever. Now, I will preface this. Before I got to this, I did do a bit of like spinning random samples that came with my wheel to like get the hand of drafting. But this is my first 4-ounce spin. Prior to this, I'd spun like half an ounce there, half an ounce there. And I think total before I got to this, I must have spun about 2 ounces of like just trying to get the handle of drafting before I started my first 4-ounce spin, which was bold. Here's my first skein of yarn. So I'm just gonna, so I don't have to unskein all these and skein them again. I'm just gonna show them to you like this. So this is my first ever skein of yarn. My tags actually have numbers on them for the first like 10, but this is my first skein of yarn ever. So this is plaid skirts on BFL dyed by Three Waters Farm. I have no idea what the yardage is of this because I didn't write that stuff down. It is everywhere from like fingering to like heavy DK. There are some places in it where it's like, what is ply twist? This skein of yarn makes me really happy because, I mean, 1, it's my first skein of yarn, but 2, it's so wildly chaotic, coming from like 2023 Tashi. Looking at this feels wildly chaotic. There are a few places in it. At the time, I didn't know how to do like a proper join when your ply broke. So what I was doing like a weird spiral ply on top of it to rejoin my singles and then plying forward. So there are definitely a few places, I'm trying to find one. There are definitely a few places where the plies are, I don't want to unskein that, like open this hank up. I'm going to have to open the hank up. I kind of want to show you what I mean. There are definitely a few places where the ply twist in here is just oh, never mind, because I tied this label on silly, so I can't open this up to show it to you. Why did I do that? That was deeply unwise. Okay. Well, here. Okay, perfect example. There were a few places where like my ply broke, so I did this weird like spirally thing to rejoin my singles, which is not, honestly, does not have very good integrity and is not like really recommended. So I'm never going to knit with this. This is going to stay with me forever. It is definitely going to be just a memento of where I started on my spinning journey and how far I've come. So I'm going to hold on to this forever and ever. Someone was recommending I put it in like a shadow box, which might be a thing I do, but it's just going to be like a little token. I mean, one, I don't know if any fabric would hold up to, if this would hold up in like knit fabric for all of the chaotic, barely plied nature of this. I mean, I do know some people like soft plied yarn. I don't like super soft plied yarn. I like my yarn to be plied at least to 25 degrees, and there are definitely some places in this where it's like barely 20. So this will probably never get knit up. I mean, look at this. What is this? There's just, I'm trying to find it for you. That is not even spun fiber right there. Where is it? Yeah, right here. That's not even spun fiber. That's just, I don't know what that is. But it was my first skein of yarn, and I am very proud of it. It reminded me of how much joy there was in being a beginner and starting over. And before I started spinning, because I was doing everything before this for so long, I had really just gotten good at things. And so it's nice to just be a beginner and have to learn something new and suck at it and start all the way over, which at the time was deeply frustrating. And there was definitely a few days where I thought about like chopping my wheel up for kindling. I don't even have a fireplace. I was going to chop the wheel up for kindling anyway. So I tell all the new spinners, and if you haven't heard this from me, embrace the suck. It is going to suck in the beginning. And then someday things are going to click and it's going to get better and better every single time. And from there, you're just going to be making yarn. It's going to feel really natural. But in the beginning, it doesn't feel great. But we're working at it to get to the places where it does feel good. Or you can abandon it. Like, don't do things that don't spark joy. But if spinning sparks joy, be prepared to, work at it. So I have skeins 2 and 3 to show you. This is 2. And for skein 2, I decided to be wild because 1, I spun BFL in silk, which is a wild choice. And 2, I decided to chain ply it, which who told Tashiana she could chain ply straight out the gate? Nobody. She did it anyway. So here's skein 2. This is my second skein of yarn. This is Old Stone House on BFL in silk by Three Waters Farm. Again, I have no idea what the yardage is. This is actually pretty consistent. I would say this is like DK weight, and the twist is pretty consistent. I guess I figured out chain plying pretty quickly, but I will say this skein is only 2.5 ounces. So that means the other 1.5 ounce is in the garbage somewhere because I didn't know what I was doing. And then here is skein 3. And this is really softly plied, but in all actuality, I would totally knit this up. This has, I think it has pretty good integrity. Just looking at it, I don't think that there is anything in here that's terrible that would compromise knit fabric. This is Lonely Shore, and it's on Falkland, and it's dyed by Wee Chickadee. And this is my third skein ever. This one I do have yardage. I got 424 yards, and it's like about fingering to sport weight. So this is when I started taking notes. But it's really interesting because I started taking notes and then abandoned taking notes. So there's no like consistency and uniformity. I never reskein my yarns. So I will say that. I skein my yarns, I check my yardage, and then I wash it. And you should, we don't should people here. A lot of people recommend after you wash it, you skein your yarns again and check yardage because your yarn will shrink. But I don't skein my yarns again because I'm lazy. I check my final yardage when I cake it up to knit with it because at the end of the day, you might lose like 10%. So if I had 424 yards pre-washing, I'm not going to have like 200 post-washing. I might get like 395 or 380 or something. So I always just give myself a 15% buffer from my pre-washing yardage and then base my projects on that. So all of these are in their first skeining. So some of them are a little janky because when they go in the water, crazy things happen. But the amount of time it would take me to cake my yarn and then skein it back again is just not labor that I'm interested in. So I don't do it. But I do know a lot of people who reskein their yarns and that's why their skeins look perfect. I'm all about getting it done. So here's my third skein of yarn. So here's 4, and 4 is dramatically inconsistent compared to 3. And this is why I don't recommend fine wools to beginners because they're just harder to draft. This is Darkest Before Dawn. It's on merino and it's by Wee Chickadee. I love the colors in this. I almost wish I had waited until I knew better before I spun it up because the colors in this is really pretty. This ranges all the way from sport weight to like heavy DK in some places. It's really like nicely twisted. There is a lot of ply twist in here and it has really good bounce. Like it has that good merino bounce. It's just not the most consistent yarn. What I would do with this is I would either throw it in a shawl or I would put it in the yoke of a sweater where it doesn't matter so much about consistency as long as you get gauge. So that's what I would do with it. Also, as much as I don't want to knit my first yarn up, these 3 together would make a really nice inclinations cowl or like a shift cowl or any of those like Andrea Mowry like mosaic knitting. I'm not knitting with this, but these three together are really pretty. So that is skein number 4. And then skein number 5 was, again, Tashiana was being very bold because skein number 5 was Polworth and silk, which I tell you to not do the things that I did that were silly. Don't spin with silk straight out the gate. Don't do it. It's a bad idea. The drafting of it will make you crazy. So here is Mesa. It's on Polworth and silk. This is dyed by Greenwood Fiber Co. I got 383 yards. It's fingering to sport. I really like this. It's just really pretty. It was terrible to spin because Polworth is a fine wool, and then I had the nerve to put silk in there, and I didn't know what I was doing. But I did get yarn. Is it consistent? What is consistency at this point? It's actually pretty consistent, and it has pretty even ply twists. I'm pretty proud of this. I really like this. Okay, I don't know how to do this, so it's gonna be faster. I'm gonna have to just stop talking about each skein forever and just show it to you. But I mean, every time I pick up a skein of yarn, I remember like who I was when I was making it. That's the thing about like having a handmade craft, is something about it just takes you right back to who you were when you were making it. And so I really want to honor that person and honor that maker, but also this video will take 20 hours. So we're gonna have to move this right along. We'll talk about the spins that were like really where something big happened, I guess. I don't know. They're all really good. This was my first skein of like minimally processed undyed yarn. This is some Jacob Roving that I got at Rhinebeck, and this is what sent me on my fleece journey, was spinning minimally processed. Like it came from a mill, but that was it. It wasn't dyed anything. And this is my first time. Now I did try to spin this long draw, and it was also my first time spinning long draw. It was my first time spinning roving because I had normally spun top. Roving's very different. Just so you know. And then I tried to spin it long draw. This is wildly inconsistent. It is wild in there. Also, there's very little twist in there, which I'm not mad about, honestly. I'm not mad about how little twist there is in there. I still think I could knit with it. Just knit it at like a DK weight gauge. But this is one of those things that feels really special because it's my first woolen spun yarn and my first yarn from a sheep that I actually knew the name of, because the seller that I bought it from at Rhinebeck raised the Jacob sheep and was telling us, you know, this roving's from this sheep, this roving's from this sheep. So like it was pretty close. And again, this is what started me all the way down the wool processing journey. So that one will probably stay with me forever. These two skeins, this is 9 and 13. I don't know what's in between, but this is 9 and 13. So this is my second foray into chain plying, and I'm really happy with this. This is, wow, this looks like I could have made it yesterday. So this is called Peony, and it's on Corriedale. It's dyed by Wool Fiend. I got 212 yards. It's DK weight, chain plied. I spun this. I remember this is one of my first spins on my Nano. My other two spins, the day I got the Nano, I started 3 spins. So I was a lunatic. One of them got knit up into my Harlow worsted hat. The other one was gifted to a friend. And so this is one of the last spins from my Nano. I only spun like 3 or 4 yarns on it, and then the small bobbins frustrated me, so I moved on. And I've since rehomed my Nano to a new maker that I hope loves it. But this was one of the few yarns I spun. This was spun and plied on my Nano. I'm really, really pleased with this. For it being skein number 9, so really early on in my spinning journey, I'm really happy with how this goes. But also you can see that each skein just gets a little bit better and better. This is skein 13, and this is looking ahead. This was my first Nest Fiber Club, and this is on BFL. And I think this is when I realized that all fibers are not the same, because I got this because I love spinning 3 Waters Farm BFL. I didn't love this. I remember just being really frustrated with this. I guess it just means like wherever each dyer sources their fiber, the fiber is going to be a little different. I don't love Nest Fibers BFL. I still don't love Nest Fibers BFL. I will spin it, but it's not my jam. But I love the colors in this. This is very much like pastel, grungy rainbow. Okay, so this is 15, and this is my first time doing an 8-ounce spin, which again, interesting choices. I have, again, there was stuff in between that, like my Meadows and Mist is getting knit up right now. My Wildwood on Merino got knit up already. So there's stuff in between, but I'm just showing you my handspun stash as it stands right now. This is a combo spin of Aspen Shadow and Dipped in Gold on Rambouillet by 3 Waters Farm. And I ended up with about 740 yards over the 8 ounces. So here's what the skeins look like together. I'm just going to show them to you together. The colors were very similar in both braids, which is why I thought I could do it as a combo spin. I'm really happy with this. I don't know what I would do with it because this turquoise is a lot for me. It's very bright cobalt, which are not colors that I reach for. So I don't know why I bought this. I don't know what I was doing. Maybe this will get knit up into a project for someone else. But it's not colors that I would reach for to wear on my skin. I think I was hoping that the gold in it would tone down how blue it was, and it didn't. It's still really nicely spun. Rambouillet is just, you know, really soft, really squishy, really bouncy. I'm really happy with these skeins. They're about DK weight for a 2-ply, which I don't know if I could do right now. Doing a 2-ply DK weight yarn is very hard. In the beginning, it was easy because I was just like still trying to figure out how to draft as fine as possible. And now that's my default. And I got to try really hard to get 2-ply DK weight yarns, which is why these early yarns are so precious. And this is skein 14. This is called How About Now. It's on superwash merino nylon from Wound Up Fiber Arts. And this is the skein that taught me that I don't ever want to spin superwash merino again. And I definitely don't want to spin superwash merino with nylon in it. This felt like spinning plastic. Even touching it now, I don't like this. I got it to spin it for sock yarn. I did the spinning. I did not enjoy the spinning. And I haven't knitted up yet. This is skein number 14. I got 454 yards. I don't enjoy spinning superwash merino. It doesn't, I don't know. It's not my jam. The yarn's pretty though. It's really, I mean, it's a really fun color. I do think I might try to knit it. Oh, what is this focusing on? Nothing. It's not focusing on anything. I might try to knit this into socks, but otherwise, I don't know. I have 2 more braids of this that are going to get destashed. Not this particular color, but this particular fiber that's going to get destashed. It's not my jam. And from here, the skeins are no longer in any particular order, so we're just going to start grabbing. I had the first 15 isolated so I could show them to you, and then from here we're just going to start grabbing, and maybe it'll go faster. Who knows? But I have these weird samples, and these are things that I was sampling for Starlight blends. I have no idea what's in any of these anymore. I know that they were luxury fibers and silk and wool. And I was sampling blends for Starlight blends when I was doing my first shop update, so that's what this is. I was going to throw these away, and Natalie recommended I try weaving with them. So these haven't even been washed. I should probably show them to you. These haven't even been washed. They're anywhere from 30 to 40 grams. That's what they look like. They're anywhere from 30 to 40 grams. This one has like Angora and Cashmere, I remember. These two both have yak in them. Like, they're pretty nice yarns. But because they're so small, I didn't know what to do with them. But I'm going to save them for a weaving project. So I'm just going to make a bunch of miscellaneous kind of like luxury fiber skeins. And check my yardage. And when I get like maybe like 500 to 600 yards, weave myself a really fun striped scarf with... That one's gone. But weave myself a really fun striped scarf with these like luxury sample yarns. These were all woolen spun. They're all things, you know, bats that I blended myself. I think one has Shetland, one has Romney. I don't remember. I have it written down somewhere. But again, because these were samples, I didn't take very good notes. But these are going to get woven up into a big, like, I want it to be like a stole. So I'm hoping for like maybe 500 yards. I'm not going to use these for warp. I'm only going to use these for weft because these are not strong enough for warp, but I think they should hold up to weaving in the weft just fine. This is my first Nest Fiber Advent. This was the Christmas Advent. No, I'm lying. This was the Valentine's Advent for 2022. I did not do a Valentine's Advent for this year because I did the Christmas Advent and I didn't think I needed another one so close to each other. And this one, I decided to do a 2-ply yarn and I ended up with like 1,800 yards over 14 ounces. I don't know how to show these to you. I think I'm just going to show them to you 2 at a time so you can like see them. They ended up feeling very pink. So here are 2 skeins. So here's 2 of them. I'll grab 2 more. This one feels the least pink out of all of them. I don't know. My plan for these, so here's 2 more. My plan for these was to hold it double with mohair, like a neutral mohair. And here's the last 2. Hold it double with a neutral mohair and knit like a basic raglan. Like I was thinking like Jessie Mae's classic raglan and just hold it with mohair, and the mohair would hopefully like mute down some of those colors. But I don't think I could do anything with it with texture because there's so much color in it. So that's my plan. And I have 1,800 yards. I have more than enough. But it was really fun to spin. I did it the same way I did the Christmas Advent, but I just did it to 2 bobbins instead of 3. And every day I opened one up, spun it. Yeah, that's what I did. I'm trying to remember. I had 2 bobbins and that's what I did. I alternated bobbins. And then every day I just opened it up, spun it up until I had 7 ounces on each bobbin, and then I applied it into a 2-ply yarn. And I only ended up with like maybe half an ounce extra on one bobbin. The bobbins were like really consistent. And then that half an ounce, I just plied it on itself with an Andean plying bracelet. So I didn't leave any yarn behind. But that's my Nest Fiber Advent spin. And then the next one I'll show you is, if you've watched episode 1 of the podcast, you've seen this already, but if you're new here and you haven't, this is Large March. This is my second sheep to skein project. It's probably the one I'm the most proud of, but here she is. She is a Cotswold Rambouillet Border Leicester cross from Nice Stock. I have a sweater project for her. This is not all the yarn because I have 2 skeins of it caked already, but I have a sweater project planned for her. This is just what's still in skeins. I love this. I love this yarn. Every time I walk past it, I just squish it. And I'm just so grateful it exists, and I'm so happy that I made it. Yeah, so here's Large March. Here's another skein of yarn that I did not write yardage down, even though it's a new-ish spin. I don't remember when I made this. I don't have any notes on it. I know it's Gingerbread House, it's Falkland, and it's Nest Fiber. That's all I got. So here's a 3-ply fractal that I made. I think I had spun this to knit a Harlow worsted, and then I ended up knitting the Wildwood. So I actually might still make a Harlow worsted of this. If I'm not mistaken, I have like 250 yards. But it is definitely 3-ply DK weight yarn. I spun it as a fractal. It's a really good example of fractal spinning. Just because the colors are almost primary. So there's a lot of blue, a lot of red, and a lot of yellowy orange. But it's not like your super punchy traditional primaries. They're kind of like muted, but it is very much an almost primary color blend. So it's a really easy way to see the way colors dance in a fractal. I know Kristen is not a fan of fractals. She's like, me, fractal spinning's ugly, but they're my favorite things to spin. I think they knit up really nicely. Here is a chain plied skein of Corriedale. It's called Epilogue. It's dyed by Emily Giles. I never remember how to say her name. And I think I've shown this one on the podcast. This one's real recent, but I didn't write down yardage. So, take better notes, you guys. Here's what that looks like. I'm really happy about this. I spun this really, really soft. I think this is a 25-degree twist angle, which is not my default, and I'm so happy that I did because it came out, it bloomed beautifully in the washing. It's a really softly plied yarn. I'm really excited about this. I might use it in the yoke of a sweater if I can find a project that I like, to have like a gradient color work yoke. I think would be fun. I think I have 250 yards. So provided I find a project that only needs 250 yards in the yoke of a sweater, then this will be doing it. This is what I'll do. The problem is trying to find a main color that'll work. Because if I go white, there are a few places in here where this pearl gray where this pearl gray might be too low contrast against the white. So we'll have to see. I don't think I would go black, but it's a theoretical project. So when it's time to pick a yarn for it, I really like the way this looks. I love the way gradient skeins look I love the way gradient yarn look in the skein. They just look like really stripy and beautiful. So there's that. From here, you might notice that we're going to go less dyed top and more like natural colors, because right around this time, we're moving into bin 2. And right around this time is when I really got interested in like hand processing and experimenting with that kind of stuff. So it's less dyed top and more natural colors, but still really pretty and still really fun to talk about. So I know you've seen this skein before. This is Just a Glimpse by Hello Yarn. And I remember talking about this because this is the skein I have 500 yards of. This is going to be knit in the Montana Mountain Cowl by Andrea Mowry at some point. But this is that skein. It is, it's that limited edition American wool blend, so there's Shevia and Corriedale and a bunch of stuff in it. Kind of toothy, kind of crunchy. Love these colors, love this spin. It was really a lot of fun to work on. I love, fiber that has like texture to it. And this is called Blancmange. I think that's how you say it. I have no idea. It's Targhee Bamboo and Silk, also by Hello Yarn, and I got 507 yards of this. I find that every time I spin that Targhee Bamboo Silk blend, I always get crazy yardage from it. It has like, golds and purples. It's another like really complementary. Adrian's really good at dyeing complementary colors on the same skein without having them feel too high contrast and icky. I love her dye style. So that's what this looks like. I think I had spun this up for socks. And I didn't knit socks, but I have enough yardage for socks. I have a lot of yardage. So this might get knit up into socks because it's definitely light fingering. So it would make a really good sock yarn. So here's another skein of that same Targi bamboo silk blend. This one's called Mon Coeur, and it's dyed by Nest Fiber, and it has, you know, pinks and blues and purples and yellows. I think I also spun this for socks. I got 452 yards. This one's closer to sport weight, where that one is closer to fingering. I mean, Targi blooms a lot in the washing, so it's really hard to like estimate what you're gonna get when you spin it. But I love how like big and beefy these Targi skeins are, and they have so much squish. They're so delightful. I have so much Targi in here. Apparently I really like spinning Targi. Here's another Targi skein. This one's called Bamboo Cobbler. Sorry, not Bamboo Cobbler. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's called Blueberry Cobbler by Sweet Georgia Yarns, and I chain plied this to maintain the color striping in it. So that's what it looks like. So if I did knit this into socks, it would give me like self-striping socks, which I think is the only thing I would do with a yarn like this. It is too high contrast, I think, for me to wear on my body. So I would only knit it into socks or give it away. This is why I give so much handspun away, is because sometimes I like the way things look in the package, and then I make it into yarn and I'm like, I would never use this, but I really enjoyed spinning it. So this will either get knit into socks or it'll just get gifted to a friend. But I love the way that looks chain plied. The more and more I look at the yarn, I'm like, oh yeah, these are becoming more consistent. These are becoming more even. I don't have numbers on these anymore, but these are definitely later in my spinning journey. I think I spun that during the 100-day project last year, actually. So that is exactly a year old. And here's some more Targi. This yarn might look familiar. These are some more skeins from my metamorphic sweater that is currently in timeout, but these are the other 3 skeins for it. So I spun 5 skeins for these, and then I was silly and I decided to skein them up in like spin cycle yardage. So I skeined them up in 200 yards, which is silly. I should have just skeined them up in like 400 yard bumps. So now I have all these like mini skeins. So these are skeins 3, 4, and 5. The other 2 are already in my sweater. I'm gonna have leftovers, because if I only have 2 skeins in my sweater and I still have 3 more. Did I have 5? I think I only had 5. Now I can't remember if I had 5 or 6. The bottom line is all I have left are sleeves, so I'm definitely going to have leftovers of this yarn, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it. It's my Mermaid Fantasy yarn. So it is a combo spin of Woodland Lights and Fountain Mosaic on Targi by Three Waters Farm. All of this stuff, I'm very good at updating my Handspun on Ravelry. So if I'm going through things really fast and you want to like see makers and stuff, all of this is going to be on Ravelry. I'll just link my Ravelry Handspun note page, because if I try to put all this in the show notes, I'll be doing the show notes for, there is something in my eye and it's terrible. Oh my God. If I try to put all this stuff in the description box, I'll be doing show notes for the rest of my life. So what I'm just going to do is link you to my Ravelry page. So if you want any information about the dyers or the materials, or sometimes I even put notes on how I spun the yarn, that is all going to be there. This is by Beautiful Fiber Life. It's Merino Flax Silk, and she doesn't name her fibers, so I named this Daydream Rainbow because it's a pastel rainbow, and it was my first time spinning anything with flax, which was interesting. I really did enjoy it. Shannon's advice was to spin it thicker and softer, so not as much twist, and spin it pretty thick. So I did end up with a 2-ply DK weight yarn. I think this is good weaving yarn. I think with the flax in it, it's not like it's scratchy. And I definitely remember spinning this and pulling out huge sections of flax where it was not blended, but it's not scratchy. It's still pretty soft. I just think with the flax in it, it would make a good weaving yarn. So I have a bunch of yarns that would be good weaving yarns, and then I don't weave. So there's that. But it's really pretty. It's a pastel rainbow fantasy. I'm really happy with it. I got 307 yards, light DK, 14 wraps per inch over the 4 ounces. Okay, I have 2 more spins that are dyed top, and then everything else in there is like natural colored, like fleecy projects. So this is 2 out of 3 skeins of a combo spin I did that was called Quiet Contrast and Quiet Reds by Three Waters Farm, and I spun this to knit it into the Great Gingham Raglan. One of the skeins is already caked up because I swatched, so these are the other 2. And these are the other 2 together. These are 100% my colors. Like if I was going to do like a primary high contrast skein that had reds and blues, what is this focusing on? If I'm doing a high contrast skein that has reds and blues, this is how I want to do it. I don't know what this is focusing on today. Okay, there it is. Aha, there it is. These are 100% my colors. They're moody, they're jewel toned, they're super saturated, but they're not bright and punchy. I'm really happy with this. So I have 2 of these, and like I said, the third one is already skeined because I swatched with it. And then this is very sloppily skeined. This is, what is this called? Sublime on Merino and Silk, dyed by Emily Giles. I have 330 yards, and I chain plied this. Emily dyes gradients, and I don't really know how to spin a gradient if I don't keep it in the gradient. So what I did was I separated it in half, and then I just spun the gradient twice and then chain plied it. I'm sure you could do other things with gradients, but when I see a gradient, I'm just like, maybe I should just keep it in the gradient. So that's what I did with this. This is Merino Silk. It's really pretty. Like I said, I have 330 yards and it's DK weight. I don't know what to do with it besides just look at it and go, huh, Tasha, you made that yarn and that looks really nice. So this is my first sheep to skein project, and this one makes me laugh because there is no consistency. This doesn't belong in here. There is no consistency in how I skein this. This first bump is 226 yards. This second bump is 458 yards. This bump is 614 yards. Like, there was literally no rhyme or reason to how I skeined this. There is another skein of this missing because I swatched with it already. So I had 4 skeins of this. Here are 3 of them. This is a Clun Forest BFL cross fleece. It's a lamb's fleece that I hand processed, scoured, carded, and spun up. And it was my first sheep to skein project. I really like this yarn. It's really squishy. It's not dense. It's not heavy. It's delightful yarn. If you ever get the chance to spin Clun Forest, I mean, I think you should go for it. It's one of those, it's shave them to save them, and it's one of those breeds that I think is not like super accessible, and it's definitely hard to get in like a prepped form, so you kind of have to do your own prep, but if you can find it in prepped form, it is delightful. So we're going to talk about this because this makes me sad. This is a skein of Romney, Rosie the Romney, hand processed and hand prepped by Melissa at Melly Knits. And it was the skein that I was really trying to learn long draw on that Melissa was helping me with, and I did not do this justice. I put so much twist in it because I just didn't know. It's my first time spinning a long wool, and so going from spinning fine wools and spinning dyed top to spinning long wools is very hard. And I put so much twist in it, and I didn't realize it until I had gotten it off the skein, and it is crunchy. I mean, it's really disappointing because this is really nice fiber. It's also like super inconsistent. It doesn't feel great. I keep it because it's a learning experience, but I'm not going to do anything with this yarn. It's not next to skin. I mean, maybe I could wear it, but it's also really crunchy, and it's overspun and it's overplied, and it would just be hard on my hands to knit with. It's giving me like Icelandic vibes, which Romney should not give Icelandic vibes. Now that I'm like sitting here and I'm touching it and I'm just like, oh, you poor sheep. This is 199 yards of 2-ply worsted weight yarn. And it's 4 ounces. And it's my first time spinning Romney. Melissa, again, shared some of her hand processed stuff to kind of help me figure out long draw because I was really struggling. And I learned a lot from this spin, like what I don't want to do ever again. And every spin after this one got better. But this is just, it's not great. You can like see in the skein, there's like pigtails. I mean, actually, you probably can't see that. But there's pigtails and there's curly cues. It's just woefully overspun and overplied. But I spun this bit of Romney right after that one, and this went so much better. So this is my first fleece project. Sam, my friend Sam, shared a little bit of her fleece from a Romney, a little bit of her Romney fleece that she had bought at Rhinebeck. She shared 6 ounces with me, and this is what I ended up with. And I had scoured this and combed this. This is what started my love of hand processing, was this. You guys, I love this skein so much, I can't stop touching it. But this is what started my love of hand processing, and I'm really glad that I had a little bit of Romney experience before I got into this, because I would have been really sad to have done all that work and then mangled it. But this skein is just delightful. Here's this skein of Romney. I mean, it is night and day. It still has a little bit of drape to it, has a little bit of life to it. I love the color of this. This is 2-ply, 407 yards. And it's like maybe fingering. I would say fingering to sport. Now Romney's going to be low grist. Sorry, it's low grist because it's a dense fiber. All long wools are low grist because they're dense fibers. This is just, I mean, it has such good handle and such good bounce. I'm so glad that I spun that other Romney first to learn what not to do with it, because I put such little twist in it, and it's beautiful. I mean, you guys, I feel like if we're going to do this, we might as well do this properly. Just, it's so nice. It's so nice. I'm just going to get into it so you can see it. This skein makes me so happy. There we go. Now you get to really get in there and appreciate this yarn. This skein makes me so happy. I'm so proud of it. And again, this is what set me off of my fleece processing adventure. So it's really special. I will use it, but it's really special. And then I had so much fun spinning that long wool that I immediately spun another one. So this is Cotswold. It's 264 yards. This is probably closer to sport DK weight. And these are the yarns that taught me that you don't need to put a ton of twist in things. Because I learned to spin on fine wools, I got super used to just packing twist in them. I mean, I spin so much Targhee. Targhee will eat that twist like a champ. And so I went from spinning all fine wools to spinning long wools that were minimally processed. And these are the spins that taught me that you don't need to pack things with twists like that. Look at the drape on this. It's beautiful. So this is Cotswold. This was a lot of fun to spin. I really want to get a Cotswold fleece from Robin at Nice Stock. This was a lot of fun to spin. I got this as prepped roving from AZ Tunis because I was doing shave. Oh, this is a shave 'em to save 'em spin, by the way. I was doing shave 'em to save 'em, so I got a few prepped like mill process roving for shave 'em to save 'em. This is my other. This is it, right? This is my other shave 'em to save 'em spin, and this is Black Welsh Mountain. And this is 249 yards. What did I do with this? Is this 2-ply? Yeah, this is 2-ply. I applied this from a center pull ball, and this is Black Welsh Mountain. I would wear this next to skin. I know people are like, it's a little crunchy, it's a little rustic. It makes me happy. I would easily wear this next to skin, but I love this. So I have so many shave 'em to save 'em projects ongoing. These are just the ones that I finished. Before I started this video, I was like, should I get some things off the bobbins? And I was like, there's no way. I think I have 7 in progress spins right now that I just can't get off the bobbins fast enough to show you. This is my first singles. Here we go. This is my first singles. This is a singles of Icelandic. So this was my first singles yarn. These are Icelandic singles. This is from Longway Homestead, 428 yards. And this was the spin that got me over my fear of Icelandic. Because if you've only knit with like the Lopi yarns, Icelandic's scary. And so I didn't know what to do. I spun this as a singles, and then I was really happy with it. So I left it as a singles. It's fingering weight, really soft spun. I mean, I'll open it up so you can see, because I'm really happy with how this went. Like, that's balanced. It has a little bit of counter spin from being skeined, but nothing. That is a balanced singles yarn, which is not easy to do. I fold it slightly in the washing, but that is going to knit up, it just has integrity. That is, it holds together really nicely. It has a little bit of heathering from the color of the sheep. There's still a little bit of VM left in this. I don't mind VM. If I minded VM, I wouldn't buy fleece. I don't mind VM. I'll pick out the rest of it as I knit with it. I don't know what kind of knit project I'm going to do with this. I think ideally I would hold it double, hold it double on itself and maybe make a hat. So if I can find a hat project that would, I could do in 200 yards, that is probably what I would do with this. I have one more Longway Homestead spin. I do their Breed of the Month Club, and I've only finished 2 of them. So there's that. That means there's probably like 8 or 9 lying around. But this is Targhee. It's my first time spinning Targhee from roving and not Targhee from top, which is very different. Very squishy, very bouncy, classic Targhee. I got 265 yards of chain plied yarn for this 4-ounce spin. So there's that. And then this, I used up some of this already. So this is the leftovers. This is Tunis lamb's wool from Small Bird Workshop. This is 241 yards. I used up some of this in a hat. It was in the hat that I knit using Sam Garen's Fall Frolic hat. So I used up two skeins of this already. This is the 3rd skein. And Tunis, when they're adults, they grow like a creamy white, but when they're lambs, they grow this fun oatmeal shade, and you can only get this color when they're lambs. And I got 8 ounces of this, so this is what I have left of that 8-ounce spin. It was a delight to spin. It was really short stapled, so I had to spin it really slowly with higher twists to keep it together, and I spun it long draw, and it made a really squishy, bouncy yarn. And the last yarn I have in here, you've already seen. This is my skein of Finn's Fleece, my first skein of Finn's Fleece from Long Rifle Farm, which I've talked about this already on the podcast. So if you've watched the podcast, you've already seen. That's the Handspun stash, you guys. That's where it is right now. Again, I have a bunch of in-progress projects. I have a whole CVM lamb's fleece that I've already spun the singles of and have yet to ply. So there's 4 bobbins of CVM lamb singles just sitting inside waiting to be plied. I'm in the middle of my sock spin, so there'll be yarn from that. I have a bunch of bobbins resting, and by resting I mean that I spun the singles and then just got bored and moved on and never plied them. So I probably should just go ply them. But this is the Handspun stash as it stands. Again, I've given a lot of yarn away and I've knit a lot of it up. I spin because I enjoy spinning, not because I want to do things with the yarn when it's done. So I'm probably going to go through and give more of this away or consider selling it. I've had a bunch of people ask me if I'm ever going to start selling Handspun. I don't know if I would consider my Handspun good enough to sell to other people. So I don't know. That might be something that I consider doing. It's a lot of yarn. Now I'm looking at it like everywhere because I've just been throwing it off the side. And it's a lot of yarn, but it brings me a lot of joy. And each skein reminds me of where I was at the time that I was making it. So I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me and going through a really quick dive into my yarn stash. And if you're a new spinner, I hope this inspires you to just keep working at it. We all start somewhere. We're all refining our skills every single day. And it's the labor of love. It's a journey. It's a spinning journey. This is definitely a marathon, not a sprint. So just, keep working at it. And I'm here to support you. Yeah, that's it, you guys. I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me. I will see you next week for a traditional podcast. I love you. Go make something fun today.